Welcome to From the Couch Sports Talk Radio. I am Sean, and I'm joined tonight by Dave. How you doing tonight, Dave?
I am doing well, Sean. Yourself?
I'm doing good, All right, so before we get going here, please remember to like, share, subscribe, and so we can get all of our infinite knowledge out into the universe. So,
yes.
Anyway,
we have loads of infinite knowledge, Sean.
Yes. Whether it's good knowledge or bad knowledge, it is infinite knowledge.
Unfortunately, we are not joined by Eric tonight as he is under the weather. I think he's actually upset that Russell Wilson is no longer part of the Steeler plan. So, but we'll let him say he has a cold.
Yes, we'll go with that. So you just mentioned it. That's the big kind of news for right now is Russell Wilson signed with the Giants. They just signed Jameis Winston, and then they get Russell Wilson. So first of all, I had to go to the Giants Facebook page, and this is their memes. They're not very happy right now. Yeah, some Malik Neighbors not happy on that one. Yeah, I don't know what's going on. We'll talk about the Dable and situation, but then wear shinier suits, film more sandwich promos, whatever it takes to help the Giants. And last but not least, this is the one that started off my search because I saw this one is the New York Giants are already eliminated from the playoffs this year.
Hey. Well, in his defense, he got Pittsburgh to the playoffs. So
did he?
I mean, there's that.
Did he?
Well, I mean,
it's got a little bit to do. I think.
Unfortunately, he couldn't lead him to the promised land when it came to finishing the season. But I mean, when you look at it, he was 6-5 down the stretch?
Yeah.
He was 4-2. Yeah.
Justin Fields was 4-2. Yeah.
Fields was 4-2. So he did win 2 more games than Justin Fields. So, there's that. That gives the Jets optimism.
It should, but I've already prepared my fellow Jet fans for this is not going to be a good season. So if we win 4 games, it's a victory this season. But what this kind of does is because now the Giants, who have the 3rd pick in the draft, no longer are exactly QB needy, especially with this class. So they can look forward to next year's class. But, of course, if they do halfway decent, they're going to be further back in the draft. So to get a quarterback, they're going to have to move up. They may actually still take a quarterback at 3.
Yeah, I think with Russell Wilson and Jameis Winston, I think that would be a mistake, especially with the talent coming out in the draft. I mean, obviously with the Giants signing Russell Wilson and Jameis Winston, I think that kind of bodes to the fact that they weren't really sold on any one particular quarterback, and maybe the one that they were sold on isn't going to be there. So maybe hedging their bets and saying, well, now at number 3, we have the choice of either taking the best of the positional players, or maybe trading back getting some more draft capital, and still, being able to take care of and filling our roster with talent, because that's the one thing that the Giants lack in terms of overall just talent at the skill positions. Um, you know, outside of Malik Neighbors, the Giants are devoid of talent, and I think the best way to take care of that is to acquire assets and be able to build around, building a team. I mean, you have to start to build a foundation. Obviously, what the Giants have been doing has not been working. So, maybe this is okay, we're at this point. We're not going to go out and sign a savior. We're not going to go out and spend $50 million on a quarterback. We're not going to do that. Let's take the opportunity and let's try to build this thing, So
Yeah,
we'll
and they left some money, because they're not paying a ton for Jameis. They're not. I mean, really, you keep seeing the 21 million number for Russell Wilson. Well, it's only 10.5 guaranteed.
Right.
21's with incentives, and that's going deep into the playoffs and roster bonuses and stuff like that.
Sure.
I think the one thing. Well, before I go into that, I'm trying to figure out what the hell the Giants team is doing with their GM and their coach. This almost seems like a stopgap measure. Like, hey, if we go and pick up the best player available at 3, we can then win some games and then next year really try to get us over the hump. Because their offensive line is not great, but they're not terrible.
Mm-hmm.
And again, your defense is playing for 40 minutes. It's kind of like the Jets. Jets had a great defense. Well, if your defense is playing for 40 minutes a game, they're going to be shit. So I'm trying to figure out what these guys are doing, because with the whole don't sign Saquon Barkley, and then they give Danny Dimes $40 million a year just to cut him before the season's even over.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the Jets are dysfunctional, and you keep bringing that up, and I cannot argue it because you are 100% correct. But this makes the Giants look like a bunch of freaking tools, especially because it's on television, and you're seeing it happen.
Well,
can you make heads or tails of what the hell's going on?
Well, I think, I'll say this. I think the whole situation with the Giants and what got the whole Joe Shane, Brian Daboll partnership and the thing off to the start that it did was the fact that the year that they were hired, the NFC East was inept. And somehow, miraculously, with Danny Dimes and Saquon Barkley leading the way throughout the season, and the injury to Dak Prescott, the lackluster performance of Philadelphia, and Washington being where they were as a franchise, a lot of things fell into quote unquote place for them and for Daniel Jones that afforded the Giants to make the playoffs. And because of that, Daniel Jones was able to take advantage of a situation where you are looking at either the Giants as a team that made the playoffs under false pretenses. They could not, in their kind of thinking, cut the quarterback or walk away from the quarterback who took them to that playoffs. And they thought that they were going to be able to contend. Unfortunately, the following year, Daniel Jones had issues. They let Saquon Barkley walk. But more importantly, Dallas and Philadelphia rebounded and got back to where they were, and the Giants regressed. So it was a blessing and a curse. And Anthony, I was just going to get to that. because again, you signed a number 2 receiver in Darius Slayton. What it would have cost you to have the best running back in the league, that kind of money. And that to me is crazy. And the fact that they signed Darius Slayton to this contract before they even had any starting quarterback on their roster was absolutely insane. Kind of goes back to the argument I had about Pittsburgh and DK Metcalf. You trade for DK Metcalf, you sign him to $35 million a year. Not that DK Metcalf isn't worth that money or isn't that kind of receiver, but you're making this judgment on your roster before you have a quarterback who's going to throw him the ball. So you already reset your roster and pay structure for any quarterback, unless you're planning on drafting and starting a rookie, which obviously, based on Jameis Winston and the signing of Russell Wilson, I don't think that they are going to be in the market for a first-round quarterback. Again, I think some things are done backwards. But if I'm the Giants, and now that I did what I did, now I have the opportunity to say, listen, I don't expect to be here this year. But now we can either make the pick, take Travis Hunter, Abdul Carter, whoever that may be, or trade back to get draft picks to start building a roster that's going to be able to compete with the Commanders, the Eagles, the Cowboys. And I use the term Cowboys loosely because Dallas hasn't shown me anything that they're ready to compete. But I just say that as a team in that division, they have to be able to put those pieces together, and they have to start to build. And the thing about the owner Mara, this was the year that he should have, if he was going to get rid of the coach and general manager, this was the year he should have done it. Because either you're going to allow these guys to continue to rebuild your team, or you're going to have to cut bait and bring in another management group with a head coach. If they're going to allow him to do this, he's got to give him the time to do it.
David, that's a great point. Is if this doesn't work and they kind of shit the bed, now you're talking about new coach, new GM, and you're basically starting over, because one thing GMs and coaches don't like is the stuff that was given to them. Mm-hmm. And here's a question real quick before we get on to the wide receiver trades or pickups. Do you think the Giants in any way are hoping and praying for the Cleveland Browns to be as inept as they usually are? Because Abdul Carter, I think, he's the best player in the draft. But Tennessee don't need him. They need a quarterback. But they need him, but they need a quarterback more. And I don't think the Cleveland Browns are going to go Shadur Sanders, and I don't think even if they picked him that Dion would let him go there. So Abdul is now they're going to have bookends. I mean, a crazy great defense. But are the Giants maybe hoping maybe they're going to do something different because they're idiots? And if Abdul Carter fell to the Giants, that's huge.
Right.
What are your thoughts?
Yeah, well, again, I think that Cleveland. I think that right now, the way it is, Abdul Carter should end up falling to the Giants. Again, barring a trade down from Tennessee or Cleveland, I mean, I can't see Cleveland going into the season with Kenny Pickett as their starting quarterback unless they are tanking for Arch Manning next year. I cannot see in any universe that Cleveland would do that. Now, you're right, Anthony, to that question. That is
Garrett is staying.
Yeah, that Garrett's already paid. He's staying. And we'll talk about that later because I have theories about some of these things that happen. But, the one thing that I'll say, and Cleveland might be in the same position because that's another interesting aspect. Does Cleveland use this draft to build and fortify positions, their defense, or Travis Hunter, or so on and so forth, to get ready for the following year? Because if you draft an Abdul Carter and you have Myles Garrett on your two bookends, okay, your pass rush and your interior defensive line becomes stronger, your secondary becomes stronger, your linebackers become better, your team from a defensive philosophy takes on an entirely different look. Offensively, you still have issues. You're still inept. You don't know if you're signing Nick Chubb back, if he's going to be gone, who your starting running back's going to be. Do you draft one early in the second round? I mean, there's so many options. They have a high draft pick. So do they do that, build the roster, go with Kenny Pickett as your quarterback, and then hope for enough success to just be a failure, enough to land the first pick overall, to have the ability to draft an Arch Manning next year? I mean, so the potential is endless, or do the Giants trade up? I mean, I don't know. I don't think the Giants would trade up because they're not going to give up picks. But again, or does Cleveland trade down and have another quarterback needy team move up? So again, I think there's a lot of things at play. I think all three of those organizations need to be built. And Tennessee has a coach in Callahan who's only been there a year, so they have the time to do that. Cleveland, on the other hand, has had Stefanski for multiple years. He's been through a number one quarterback. Well, no, he hasn't. I'm sorry. He wasn't there when they drafted Baker. But he's had a number of years as a head coach. Andrew Berry in Cleveland has had a number of years as a general manager. Jimmy Haslam doesn't seem to care how bad or good Cleveland is at this point. He's more worried about where they're going to build their stadium. So, again, at the end of the day, the way I look at it, 2 or 3 of these teams have multiple holes to fill. Quarterback is important for Tennessee. Can Cleveland afford to wait? Yeah. Can the Giants afford to wait now? Yeah. So maybe the question becomes, if I'm Cleveland and the Giants, do I value Travis Hunter or Abdul Carter? And maybe that's where I look at. Maybe some of these quarterbacks fall a little further than we think, because some of these teams could be looking at what they're going to be building for in the future, not what they're looking for at the present moment. Is Shedeur Sanders a franchise, a 12-year quarterback? Is he going to change the face of a franchise? He could. I don't know. I don't know. So we'll see. It's going to be interesting.
Yeah, it's tough, and there's really not a lot of quarterback needy teams that are looking to move up. I mean, if Tennessee was to move out of first position and someone was needy, I don't see who it would be. Number one, and they would want such a haul, and you're going to risk that all for Ward. I mean, the Browns need a quarterback, but they're not going to trade up to number one to get it. The Giants are good. Patriots are good. Jacksonville's good. Raiders are good. Jets are good. Not good, but they're not going to trade up and go crazy and spend draft capital. The Carolina Panthers, who finally, after 3 years, have a first-round pick, I can't see them doing it. I mean,
I actually think after Bryce Young got benched last year and came back, he actually played better.
Yeah, he did. Sure. Indy, but I can't see them. I mean, they almost made the playoffs last year, so they're in the middle of the pack. Let's see. Do the Giants need a QB right now? Like you said, next year, QBs in the draft are better. Yeah, the Giants absolutely don't need a quarterback. They got Jameis Winston and they have Russell Wilson. I would not waste the third pick in the draft on Shedeur Sanders. I just don't know,
Right. Like I said, not being privy to conversations that the coach, general manager, and owner have. Okay. If I'm given reassurances by the owner as the general manager and coach that, listen, I am going to give you the duration of your contract to figure this out, then if I'm the Giants, I'm in no rush to take any one of these quarterbacks. Because if I'm looking at what the Giants did and seeing what the division is, with Washington getting so much better, with Philadelphia still being so much better, your only real competition for last place in the division is Dallas. I do sense that there is a sense of urgency within the Giants and within Joe Shane and Brian Daboll that they went out and signed Jameis Winston and Russell Wilson. I believe there is a mandate in New York to win now, or, win more than you did last year and show signs of improvement. If it were me and I was an owner and I want my team built for long-term success, I would have allowed that, and I wouldn't draft a quarterback, and I would try to build my team, even if I had to trade back to get more talent on overall, if I was able to get and acquire more draft picks to get more younger talent in the positions that I need, whether it be trade back, get an extra second round pick and a pick next year, so on and so forth, get the first round pick from that team, a second, and maybe a second round next year, to be able to continue to add players onto my roster where maybe next year I finish second to last. So I have the second pick, but now I have draft picks in the following year's draft to be able to turn around and trade up to get that number one overall pick, depending on who ends up in there. Maybe it's Tennessee again, who just drafted a young quarterback. They're not going to want to draft Arch Manning too after they just drafted Cam Ward or Shedeur Sanders, whoever that may be. So, I'm looking at the overall thing and how do you go about building a team? And I only look at it from my experience as a fan and see what's happened to my team. And in 2017, we had an opportunity at pick number 7 to draft Patrick Mahomes, okay? Yet we traded that pick down to the 27th pick, acquired multiple picks for that year's draft and the following year's draft, turned around and packaged those picks and moved up from where we were, got to number 7, drafted Josh Allen, and then still were able to trade up to number 16 to draft Tremaine Edmonds. So again, it's how you build your franchise and what your long-term vision is. If the Giants have that long-term vision with the ownership group to allow that to happen, then that's what I do. If they have a mandate, then you're trying to win now. Maybe that's why they overpaid Darius Slayton $36 million. Because to me, that makes absolutely no sense that you're paying $36 million to a career number 2 guy. So it's just interesting to me. I don't know their logic or rhyme or reason.
Yeah, that Slayton payday, I was like, what? Mm-hmm. And you're exactly right. He's a number 2. He's not your number 1. I don't see him worth that kind of money. I don't see him worth $20 million.
No.
But it is what it is, and the Giants. It is kind of looking kind of Cleveland and Jets-ish. Okay, so talk about wide receivers. Stephon Diggs.
Mm-hmm.
Now, between you, me, and the lamppost, I think this has disaster written all over it. A 3-year contract. Stephon is a great player. He was. And he was, by the end of his career, he was a cancer and wanted out of Minnesota. I think he was a cancer to the Bills. You're going to disagree with me, David, but I'm sorry. Why else would you release him? And, because
we traded him. We didn't release him.
Okay, you trade him. And he only played a couple of games for the Texans.
Mm-hmm.
But, Mike Vrabel came from the Bill Belichick school of what's best for the team.
Mm-hmm.
And I like the money that the Patriots have spent in free agency. I mean, they've spent a lot of money. They had a lot of money. And I think they are going to be a hell of a lot better this year than they were last year. But this is a large payday.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm saying. If New England thinks Diggs will be number one, they are crazy. Is he going to be with number one receiver in that offense? Hell yeah. Yeah, he's going to be number one. But I see this melting down if things don't go well and Drake May doesn't get him the ball enough. They're going to have head case on their hands, and they got 2 more years to deal with it unless they trade him away and eat some of that salary. I don't agree with this particular decision. I think the Patriots, with where they're drafting, could have gotten a receiver who was as good or better. I think they're 5 or were they 4? They're 4. They can get that receiver out of Arizona. I forgot his name.
Roland McMillan.
Yeah, I think that will be, and then Drake May and him could grow together. I think this is the one mistake that the Patriots made in free agency, but if they end up, go ahead.
I don't think it was. I don't think it's a mistake. The contract might be a mistake. I don't think the player, because look at, the fact is it takes Stephon Diggs a little bit before he wears out his welcome. He's got 3 years. He got his last payday and probably will retire after the Patriots, or he'll try to stick on and get a $5 million veteran deal to just go in and do what he's got to do. Do I believe that he's the savior and the answer at wide receiver? No. Do I believe that the Patriots draft another wide receiver? Yeah, they got the high pick in the first round, high pick in the second round. They'll probably grab a receiver in the second round. What I like about this trade, or what I like about this signing, is that you have a young quarterback in Drake May, and now you have a veteran receiver who is a fantastic route runner, who, number one, Drake May, what we learned last year about Drake May is he demands a lot from himself, and Stephon Diggs demands a lot from his quarterback. So he will help Drake May in the maturation process of what it takes for a receiver and a quarterback to get on the same page and do the things and put in the work to get that rhythm down. I don't know if Stephon Diggs comes back right at the beginning of the season. I know he tore his ACL. I don't know if he's going to be out for part of the year or whatnot. So we'll have to wait and see what goes on. But I don't mind the signing. I think Stephon Diggs, with the young quarterback, the fact that he is what he is as a receiver, he's not going to burn you down the field. He's not a speed guy, but he's a guy who gets open. He's dependable for the quarterback unless it's with 2 minutes left in a playoff game and you throw him a 80-yard bomb wide open and he drops it. But I'm sorry, I digress. But like I said, he gives a young quarterback that veteran presence, that sure-handed ability, that outlet guy who will usually make the play. It gives them what a young quarterback needs to continue to gain confidence, and it will allow the other receivers that I don't know who the hell they are, with the exception of Mac Hollins. Okay, it will allow those receivers a little more freedom to get open outside, because you're going to have to take care of Stephon Diggs underneath. So it's going to free up some of those outside guys. Maybe Jalen Polt this year will step up, and he'll be a part of the offense because he wasn't used last year. So we'll see. But I don't mind the signing. The contract, I think, is a little ridiculous. But when you have that kind of money to spend, who cares? I mean, that, and the one thing that I'll say is there are franchises now in the NFL that just have to overpay to get players to come and play, because they're not the New England Patriots of 10 years ago, 7 years ago. It's a different NFL. Now the Patriots are learning what the rest of the NFL used to have to, is that you have to overpay players to come on, play on your team. It's just the nature of the beast. It's the cyclical part of the NFL. 1 minute you're on top, the next minute you're scraping the bottom of the barrel. So,
yep. And so I'm walking through the office today. My dad mentions to me, he goes, I heard the Cowboys are looking to get Tyreek Hill. I hadn't heard that anywhere. I guess he was on the internet somewhere, probably, Facebook. And that's, of course, it's very newsworthy on Facebook. They always tell the truth. I was like, no way. They're not paying anybody. And we've mentioned the Cowboys several times. Well, you did, David. I don't get it. Like, did Jerry dig himself such a hole? Because we talk about salary cap and competition numbers, whatever, and then it's always kicking the can down the road. Did Jerry Jones just kick the can down the road and finally said, you know what? I gotta just catch up to this thing, and then we can start over? Or is he losing it? Thoughts?
I mean, I don't know. I don't, to be honest with you, I don't know what the Cowboys are doing. I mean, I like the fact they went out and signed Javonte Williams. Okay. But again, he's a running back who's underperformed. He's often injured. You need a running game in the NFL, and you can't rely on Dak Prescott to throw the ball 50 times a game and win. And then you don't even you lose Brandon Cooks. You haven't signed anybody to help outside CeeDee Lamb. So you're basically saying your offense is going to run through two players, and that's it. Dak Prescott and CeeDee Lamb. And you can't live like that as an offense and be successful, especially now in the NFC East, when you have to play a defense like Philadelphia, a defense like Washington. The Giants, their defense isn't that bad. I mean, offensively, they struggle. Defensively, they're a pretty decent defense. So I can't ask or answer what Jerry Jones is thinking when it comes to not going out and trying to find impactful players. They were in on Cooper Kupp till they found out how much Cooper Kupp wanted. Well, if you sign a Cooper Kupp, absolutely, Thomas, he is a smart businessman. And all he cares about is the bottom line of the brand of the Dallas Cowboys. He got his 2 championships back in the 90s. So he's been a champion. Now it's or 3, I'm sorry. So he's got his 3. All he cares about now is the Dallas Cowboy brand, and that the Dallas Cowboy brand continues to generate billions of dollars. It ain't about championships anymore.
No, and the club is worth $10 billion. But I will say, Jerry Jones is not a bad GM in certain aspects. He actually drafts really well. He's the one who kind of controlled that whole thing, and he's made a bunch of hits.
Sure.
It's his free agent signings and
his coaching hires.
His coaching hires. And this year he hired what's his name? It's Who Gives a Shit?
Brian Schottenheimer.
Yeah. What the boy? Come on, Jerry. You know, the problem is to get a head coach that could do anything. He had Jimmy Johnson, and he built that team. And then he fired Jimmy Johnson, and then what the guy from Oklahoma,
Barry Switzer
comes in, and he wins. He's like, "Oh yeah, we won the Super Bowl." He didn't win because of him. You didn't win because of him. You won because Jerry put that team together. You still had the talent.
Like Tom says, if they're talking about you, then you are winning, and that's how Jerry operates. But more importantly, how Jerry truly operates is if you're talking about Jerry, then Jerry's winning. The reason that Jimmy Johnson got fired is they were talking about Jimmy and not about Jerry. Jimmy overshadowed Jerry, and from that point on, Dallas could never have a coach that could overshadow Jerry. Period. Because you didn't care about Jason Garrett because it was about Jimmy. Everybody talked about Mike McCarthy being terrible, but they always ended up talking about Jerry. As long as your coach doesn't overshadow your owner and Jerry Jones, everything's fantastic. That's why they will never hire. That's why they didn't hire Bill Belichick, who basically said, "I will take your job." But he didn't want to be overshadowed by the shadow of Bill Belichick, because people would be talking about Bill and not about Jerry. And Jerry's all about Jerry. And it's unfortunate. I mean, because Dallas, for all intents and purposes, have had enough talent at points that they could have been championship teams. But you had coaches who didn't know how to coach these players and put them in the proper positions to win when they had the talent.
And I don't know who actually made the trade or convinced who. But the Herschel Walker trade is what made the Cowboys.
Sure.
And so, that was Jerry Johnson's first year on the team. And it was also Dingle Fritz's first year owner.
But see, I will say this. Yep. No, it is a beautiful place. AT&T Stadium is fantastic. It is the diamond of the NFL. I mean, it truly is. It's a great stadium. But this is why I say this, Sean, and this is why I harp on this so much. When you look at the trade, that Herschel Walker trade, and you look at the players that they got from that trade, just like I talk about free agency, and I would talk about these teams who win free agency. I signed this guy. I got the free agency all-pro team. Here's the biggest problem. Who is the coach of the team, and how do they coach those players to play together? You have to have the coaching staff in place to draft those players, get those players on the same page, and get them to play. Look on paper, last year, the year before, and I know Aaron Rodgers got hurt, but on paper, in the AFC, the Jets were stacked. Defensively, offensively, they had Garrett Wilson. Even last year, Garrett Wilson, Devontae Adams, their defense, Sauce Gardner, CJ Mosley, all of those guys, Braylon Allen, Breece Hall, all those great, fantastic weapons. All pro fantasy team, all the names, all the faces, all that stuff. You put them on a football field, they don't know how to play together. And whose fault is that? It's the coach.
I hear what you're saying, and I agree with you, but there's one small thing that you're overlooking, that every Jet fan, Thomas, my man over here, we knew the Jets didn't have an offensive line. They didn't have an offensive line. And that's what's killed the Jets. And they still haven't improved on that offensive line. They're probably going to pick a tackle in the draft and improve it a little bit. But that's the one thing the Jets haven't done in years that could really help them. And yes, they had the running backs. They had the receivers. Their defense was awesome. And last year, what I don't understand is last year's defense was worse than the year before, but they played less because Rodgers could actually move the ball a little bit. But the Jets just had a terrible offensive line.
You know,
that's why they suck.
I have to take. I don't mean take issue, but the one thing that we can't keep doing is we can't keep pinning the losses on, well, you can't win with paying a quarterback $60 million. You can't win with paying a quarterback. Look at the fact of the matter is there's 8 or 9 quarterbacks in the league right now who make over $50 million. Okay. It's how you do it with the cap, the things that you have to do to make the cap hits easier, whether you extend them, spread out the cap over a longer period. Yeah, at some point, you're going to have to pay the piper. And I get that. But the things that I look at are good GMs will figure out ways, especially with the cap going up by $32 million this year. So that $32 million cap increase from last year, okay, it helped teams that were in cap hell. What was that?
Just mentioning letting go of JFM. Horrible decision. Yeah, defenses are tough because offenses learn where to pick it apart. Very true.
Oh, sure. And I think the biggest problem with defenses in general is the fact that a lot of the rules in the NFL are geared to help offenses. So defenses are already at a disadvantage to begin with. But again, I look at, the whole quarterback getting paid. I mean, I understand the NFL hates Cleveland because they basically set this whole thing in motion to the point where quarterbacks were getting paid what they're getting paid. But that was bound to happen sooner or later. Maybe it accelerated the inevitable. But the fact is now wide receivers are getting paid $35 and $40 million a year. Okay. And to me,
running backs getting paid 12.
Yeah, and running backs get paid 12, and good defensive ends get paid 20, and good left tackle or 40, and good left tackles get paid 30. I mean, every position has a price and a value, and the fact is, quarterback is the most important position, so they get paid. I mean, as sure. You start making a lot of money, the salaries go up. Position-wise, quarterback is the most important position on the field, so they're going to get paid. And there's some quarterbacks, like I was referring to earlier in Daniel Jones, that happen to fall in the right place at the right time. You want to talk about divine intervention. Daniel Jones is a $15 million a year quarterback. He took his team to the playoffs, and you were either going to cut him because you're either going to let him walk as a free agent because you didn't pick up his option, or you were going to pay him. The Jets had no choice but to pay him what they paid him. He wasn't worth a quarter of that, but Giants. They had to pay him. And so
Giants, you said Jets.
Or Giants. So yeah, there's divine intervention sometimes in these situations, but the facts are, Josh Allen just got $55 million, $330 million guaranteed or whatever. Okay, makes him the highest dollar value amount quarterback in the league. But even with that high guarantee value, he's still the 5th highest paid quarterback. He's behind Joe Burrow. He's behind Jalen Hurts, he's behind Jared Goff, and he's behind Dak Prescott. So, I mean, quarterback salaries are going to go up, and they're going to continue to go up. Dak Prescott probably next year. I mean, look at it this way. Brock Purdy is going to get paid $55 million. He's probably worth 30, but he's going to get 55 because he became a free agent at the right time.
Yeah, unfortunately for Sanford, you know what? This is a whole nother chat.
Yeah.
So, David, which free agent moves over the past week did you want to discuss? Is there anything that's coming to mind?
Well, I mean, look at like I said, I mean, it's been slow.
Yeah.
I do like the Stephon Diggs move. I thought that was good for the Patriots. They needed a veteran. I mean, like I said, money wise, it wasn't the way to go. But that is what it is.
I was going to segue. I apologize, David. I don't mean to interrupt you, but
no, go right ahead.
Going to segue into with Russell Wilson signing for the Giants. This Aaron Rodgers watch is on. It's been on for how many weeks now? Mm-hmm. Does this kind of solidify Rodgers going to the Steelers?
No, because the Vikings came out today and said the GM said that they haven't ruled out Aaron Rodgers in Minnesota. They haven't told JJ McCarthy he's their number one. There's nothing set in stone. Maybe that's Rodgers' camp through Minnesota, trying to stir up stuff to maybe make Pittsburgh up their offer that they offered Aaron Rodgers. But again, me personally, not because yeah, you're right, Tom. I get that. Yeah,
you talking about Rodgers?
No, he's talking about Steph Diggs.
Oh, okay.
You got to remember they're a little behind. Tom, you're absolutely right. As I said, I like the signing for for Drake May. I love the fact that he's going to have a veteran wide receiver to throw to, somebody who's dependable. I don't like the $69 million contract they signed him to. I don't think they had to spend that kind of money on a guy 32 years old. But I don't like the money, but I like the fit. I like the fact that it's going to help Drake May develop. I think a good young quarterback needs a quality veteran receiver to help his development, and I think he will do that because I think Stephon Diggs is still that good. As much as he might have been a problem in Buffalo, for the 4 years he put into Buffalo, he was fantastic. Whatever behind the scenes drama went on there, I don't care. I mean, for what he did with Josh Allen in Buffalo, I wish Stephon Diggs nothing but the best. And as a fan of the NFL, I wish nothing but the best for Drake May in New England, because I think you got a good receiver to help a young quarterback develop into a better quarterback. And so I'm hopeful that it does work out for New England. As a fan of football, maybe not a fan of the AFC East, because I don't want Drake May to become that good. But I'm just saying, I hope success for all football players, especially young quarterbacks. So, but no, getting back to what was it?
Aaron Rodgers.
I don't think there's anything completely set in stone. If I have my choice, I would say Aaron Rodgers' best opportunity at success is with Minnesota. I don't think him going to Pittsburgh and trying to revive and to push Pittsburgh to win a playoff game is the best spot for him. I think, number one, I think the NFC, outside of maybe Philadelphia, offers Aaron Rodgers the best opportunity or the best path to achieve the goal of getting to a Super Bowl based on the competition in the NFC as opposed to the AFC. So depending on what Aaron Rodgers' vision and goal is, you know, I would I would say again, I think the best thing to do would be for Rodgers to go to Minnesota. Whether he does that or not, you know, we'll see. Tom, I feel your pain as a fan of the Buffalo Bills. I never like to wish the Patriots any kind of success at all, but as a host of this show and as somebody who looks outside of my own fandom, as a fan of football and football players, I do love the fact that when you watch a young quarterback come into the league and succeed and play at a high level, I'm always one of those people who thinks the better the competition, the better it brings out of your own team. And you actually get to see them play at that level. And I love that. Like, if you ask me right now, my two favorite quarterbacks in the league are Josh Allen and Bo Nix. I love Bo Nix. I think he's going to be one of the next great quarterbacks. But again, that's just my opinion, and I'm entitled to it, so I'll keep it. But no, I love Bo Nix. I think he's a special talent. So,
yeah. Well, of course, I agree with Thomas because I am a lifelong Jet fan.
Sure.
And when the Patriots were that bad last year, I was like, thank God.
Yeah.
The Patriots could go. No one cared about the Patriots. No one talked about the Patriots. It was 1985 the last time the Patriots did anything before they went on this crazy run for 20 years. So I was like so happy. I feel bad because, actually in 85, I was hoping they won the Super Bowl against the Bears. It was never going to happen. But
hey, when Steve Grogan came into the game wearing that neck collar thing, I'm like, I feel bad for you because you're gonna leave the game in a full body cast.
Yeah, exactly, and he pretty much did.
But that was embarrassing.
So let's talk a little, just a tiny bit here, just a minute or two about the draft. I am trying to figure out which quarterbacks go where. Shedeur Sanders, I cannot figure out a team that he would go to. I'm like, give me
the top 10 picks.
Top 10 picks or top 10 teams?
Top 10 teams.
Okay, you got the Titans, Browns, Giants, Patriots, Jaguars, Raiders, Jets, Panthers, Saints, Chicago Bears.
Okay, so out of those top 10, if Cleveland passes, if Cleveland passes on a quarterback, the only team out of the top 10 that I would even see remotely possible for Shedeur Sanders to go to would be New Orleans, because they have Derek Carr. So out of the top 10 of quarterback needy teams, I could see if Shedeur fell that far, that he would be too enticing for New Orleans to pass up.
Okay, here's a hypothetical for you.
Okay.
If he falls to 21, do the Pittsburgh Steelers take him?
Of course. They'd be crazy not to. They would be absolutely insane not to.
Because I could really see that happening. You actually have.
No, I'll be honest. I'd have to see Dak Prescott's contract to find out how many years he has left on it.
He just signed last year, so he's got this year plus 2 more.
Oh, okay. I mean,
they
that's
could
possible.
think about a rookie contract, maybe Dallas, and they're at 12.
Well, that's what I'm saying. If that's what I'm saying, man, I'm telling you. I mean, but you're right, Sean. If Cam Ward goes to the Titans, you really could, in actuality, see Shedeur Sanders drop. I mean, a lot. Yeah, they'd probably have to get to number 6. Tom, they would probably have to trade with the Raiders because I don't see Ashton Genty getting past the Raiders if he's there at 6. The Raiders need a running back.
Here's a good question, and it's kind of like there are teams. They haven't been named yet, but like Dion's like he ain't going to certain teams.
You know, the problem is the problem I have with that is he can say that, but this isn't John Elway. Like I don't know if Shedeur Sanders has a option to go play baseball or go play basketball. So, you know, Elway at the time that
yeah, I just watched that documentary the other day for the second time. It was awesome.
Yeah, because at the time, you know, Elway had options. At the time, quarterbacks in the draft, like Eli Manning, well, I'm not going to go play in San Diego. You know, now you don't have that leverage anymore. Because here's the simple fact is this. I'll draft you. You don't have to play. You can go back in the draft next year, and next year I'll pick you again. You know, because the problem is a lot of the bottom teams are drafting at the bottom because of need for a quarterback or whatnot. So they're going to be back at the bottom of the draft again if you don't play. So I mean, you don't have to get paid. You can sit and not get paid, and not play football and not make money. I'll just draft you next year, and then you don't have to get paid for 2 years. And you know what I mean. So yeah, I don't think they have that leverage like they used to.
KD in our chat just posted something about the unsportsmanlike conduct, and I don't know if that's directed at the show, if he's watching, or if it's something that happened previously in the chat, which I haven't looked at for forever.
I don't know. But hey, it could be because I'm putting shame on Shedeur Sanders' name where he could drop out.
He's talking about something else. A nose wipe gesture is now a penalty.
Oh,
okay. So yeah, KD, instead of being on this show here, you're sitting around and you're texting on the chat here. Come on.
Oh, he's talking about unsportsmanlike conduct when they go like this, like when they're playing the game. And he's like, that's taunting. That's probably going to be taunting now. You can't wipe your nose. I have a booger. That's taunting.
Okay, I see what he's saying now. Okay, it's getting crazy. You either need to cut it all out or whatever. You know, unless you're the Pittsburgh Steelers that let them go like this when there's 30 seconds left on the clock and you need to, down the ball. The kids are millionaires, and that's something I was I saw some stuff online, and I didn't have a chance to read it yet, but they were talking about this NIL money. Is it ruining the game? I don't know. I mean, my personal feeling is if you take NIL money, you then need to pay tuition to the school. You cannot be on scholarship at the school and receive NIL money. So if they're going to give you $100,000 and it costs you $26,000 to go to that school for a year, which would be crazy kind of money. But anyway, you need to pay that at the NIL money and let them use the scholarships for other people who aren't going to get it, because it's not like, oh, I walked on and I made the team at Notre Dame and I'm going to get $100,000 because of my likeness. I'm Madden NCAA.
Right. Well, again, I think I don't have a problem with no money. I think no money should be capped. I don't think students during the season can go in the transfer portal and say, hey, Tennessee's only paying me $2 million. I want $6 million and I'll come play for you. I mean, that's crazy. I mean, the fact that some of these college kids get $6 million to transfer to their other school, and the fact when, taxpayers pay for colleges anyway, and where are they getting all this money from? And so I get it. I understand.
I totally understand that, Thomas. And that's why I think the athletes should get paid. But on the other hand, if you're going to get paid as an employee, I guess it's a simple.
Well, it is. No, I mean, if I go to work, I still have to pay for my house. Just because I'm a worker doesn't mean I don't have to pay to live. Doesn't mean I don't have to pay to, So yeah, I'm getting paid.
Room and board would be a different thing. And that makes more sense, because the tuition thing, because I'm only getting $2,000 from NIL because I made, PlayStation 3's disc golf college edition.
Well, I think the scholarships should go to those. First of all, I don't think if you're going to get paid millions of dollars in nil money, you're a top 1% athlete of the top athletes that go to college anyway. The scholarships should go to the kids who are fringe and otherwise either one can't afford to go to college but are good enough to play football and aren't really blue chip recruits, okay? As opposed to, hey, we're going to give these guys a free ride who half of them don't go to class anyway. So we're going to give them a scholarship for free just because you're going to make the college millions of dollars by playing football. So there's got to be a give and take. I mean, why waste your scholarships when these kids are going to be making $6 million? Make them pay $100,000 for their college education, or make them pay $100,000 of their nil money to play football, because I'd say 70% of them don't get a college education.
Yeah, it's tough, and I understand, because the point Thomas made was the point of the nil money is that we're bringing in millions of dollars for you.
Right.
We're supporting your university, but we don't get paid. Well, you get paid in education. Well, no, because most of them have to leave because, especially there was an article today. I forgot who the hell. There was an NIL player who said, I didn't have lights growing up.
Sure.
And you can't take it situation by situation. I wish you could.
No.
But it is what it is.
No, I get it. No, I was going to say, I get it.
Okay. So I think we should probably kind of wind this up.
Mm-hmm.
But let's say next week, let's do a mock draft, first round only.
Mm-hmm.
And we will all go through how we think the first round draft board is going to play out, because we're 30 days away from the draft.
Right. Hey, Tom, while you're out there, I will ask you, would you like to come onto the show next week and be part of our mock draft? Because what I'd also like to do, if we could, is Katie brought this up. We'll do a mock draft, but what we'll do is we'll go back to the 2017 NFL draft, and we will redraft the class of 2017. Look at all the first round picks of the teams that picked, and we will redraft that first round to see what players should have gotten drafted based on where they are in the NFL today.
Does the PFF program do that?
No, we'll do it. We'll do our own thing here. We'll go through. We'll have the list of the 2017. Cool. All right. When we set up the show next week, I'll send you an invite for the. I'll shoot you a Facebook message for the. I'll give you the link to the show for you to jump on. But no, what we'll do is I'll have KD work on a graphic that'll show us all 32 picks from the 21 draft or the 17 draft, and we'll take those top 32 picks and then we'll just redraft.
Okay. Okay. I see what you're saying. I like the idea. That's going to be freaking weird, man.
Yeah.
Especially because you don't know, I don't remember who the hell in 2017 the Tampa Bay Buccaneers quarterback was.
Well, exactly. But I mean, we'll go through it, and just based on looking at the team today, and the players who were drafted in 2017, what would have been different? Josh Freeman was the quarterback for the Bucs.
Oh, Jesus. Yeah. Okay. Well, with that being said, I mean, obviously, the strange thing is the graphic, because you got to go all rounds, because there was some 5th round picks.
Well, what I want to know is what pick did Tampa Bay have in the first round of the 17 draft? If they had the first overall pick, I know who they would have picked instead of Josh Freeman.
Yeah. Wow.
And they wouldn't have picked Jameis Winston either. I think didn't they draft Winston in the first round that year?
Yeah, he was the number 1 pick.
Yeah.
Oh my God, I forgot when he got drafted. Was it 2016?
Was it 16 or 17?
No, it couldn't have been 16. It had to be 18.
No, Winston. No. What's his name was in 18? Baker Mayfield was 18.
Oh, Jesus. Here we go. 2015.
So who? Okay, I'm gonna do something real quick.
Dude, this is crazy.
So
this is absolutely crazy.
Okay. So Cleveland had the first overall pick, and they took Myles Garrett.
Okay.
Chicago, pick number 2, took Mitch Trubisky.
Oh. And they moved up for that draft pick.
Yeah, they traded. Wow.
Oh my God. Don't go any further. This is.
Yep.
We have to get this mapped out. This is what happened, and these people traded up, and then redraft, and oh my God, this is amazing.
Yeah, so we will go through, and we will look. I will find out what teams had their original picks before they traded to see what would have been different in the first round.
I mean, just that second pick right there. I'm okay with Myles Garrett, number 1. But trading up to get Mitch Trubisky.
Mm-hmm.
And knowing what we know now, I mean, hindsight's always 20/20, but how'd they pick Mahomes? He'd either be in a full body cast right now.
Well, they only traded up 1 pick. They traded up with San Francisco.
for Mitch Trubisky.
Yep.
Because I remember watching that draft, and they traded up, and I'm like, who the hell are they going with? And they picked Mitch, and I was like, what the hell are they doing?
Yeah, and I got to try to figure out who Frisco's quarterback was at the time.
Wasn't Garoppolo?
No.
Oh God. Oh, I can't remember his name right now. He wasn't very good. Okay. Anyway, so let's do that. Let's get to that the first half of the show if we can.
Yeah.
Because that's going to really be a mind blower. And then we'll go through the draft, and it's going to be quick. Thomas, we do hope you can join us. We'd love to have you.
Yep.
With a name like your last name, I want to try to pronounce it, but I don't want to insult you.
Bon Jovi?
It's not Bon Jovi.
It is.
It would be Bon Jovi.
Bon Jovi?
I would think. But anyway, he's probably going to come on and slap the shit out of me.
He's John's. He's John's second cousin.
Bon Jovi and Bon Jovi are two different words.
Well,
anyway,
close enough.
All right. Anyway, this will be great. I'm looking forward to it. And if any of our other fans who are watching want to come on the show, please let us know. We would love to have you on. And as you can tell, we know nothing. You probably know as much as we do, if not more. And it's always good to have, something to ping off of each other. So anyway, with that being said, thank you all for watching tonight. Tomorrow, next week's show is going to be great because we're going to go crazy stuff with the redraft of 2017, the mock draft for this year. And we will see you next week from the couch.
Good night.